Well, we are nearing 3 years since the nation's deadliest smuggling attempt across the U.S.-Mexico border. 53 migrants died after they were left inside of a tractor trailer without any air conditioning. This all took place in San Antonio back in June of 2022. A federal trial is underway for some of the people that investigators say were involved in that human smuggling operation. Our media partners at Texas Monthly are zooming out on this story now, looking at the journey that some of the victims were on before they ended up inside that trailer. We've got Texas Monthly publishing an article. It's called A Deadly Passage. It was produced in collaboration with an independent nonprofit news organization called the Food and Environmental Reporting Network. This work was also supported by the Economic Hardship Reporting Project, which is a journalism nonprofit. Joining us tonight is Elliott Woods. He was able to travel to other countries and meet with some of the families of the victims that were in that truck that day. Let's go ahead and start with Araceli. Elliott, thank you so much. Araceli Marroquin Coronado, as you learned that she wanted to become a teacher in Guatemala. Can you tell us a little bit about what eventually led her to make this journey north?
Sure. So Araceli came from a little town called Comitancillo in the mountains of western Guatemala. And it's a place where most people have about a sixth grade education, because even though school is technically free, there are a lot of other expenses that people have to cover, like uniforms and school supplies. And so Araceli wanted to be one of the rare people who actually graduated from high school in her town. And so she begged her parents to pay for her, which was a big sacrifice for them, but they did it. And her goal after that was that she actually wanted to become a teacher herself. So when she was 20 years old, she graduated with a teaching certificate, which was a huge deal for her family. And then she hit the job market. And that's when reality hit. She couldn't find a job as a teacher. There was too much competition and not enough slots. And so she went to work as a maid, basically, in a nearby big city. And she did that for a while. Her dream of being a teacher had basically fallen flat. And so she begged her parents to help her pay to travel to the United States, where she had a sister living and where she planned to work and save money to help lift her family out of poverty. So when she was 21, she headed north toward the United States. And unfortunately, she was one of the people who died in the back of that semi-trailer.
Yeah, it really was a tragic incident. I remember covering it and being down there when all of this happened. These families, they've suffered such a loss. Are any of their family members still considering making that trip north?
They are. So there are certainly some families that I spoke to, and I spoke to about 16 families of survivors and victims. And so I don't want to say that I know what every single family is thinking, but among the families that I spoke to, there were a few who said, we will never support this kind of thing again, including Araceli's family. They have younger children, and they said, we never want to hear about migrating again. But there were other families, like the family of two boys who traveled together from two different families in Guatemala. Their names were Melvin and Wilmer were their first names, and they both have little brothers. And one of their little brothers, Melvin's little brother, says he's too scared to travel north. But Wilmer's little brother, whose name is Eugenio, said that he really wants to go, and he thinks he'll make more money in the United States. And he looks around the place where he lives, and he sees new pickup trucks and bigger new houses under construction with big metal fences. And he knows just as well as everybody else where he lives that if you want to get ahead and have the kind of money that's required to have a good life with food on the table and less worry in Guatemala, then you need to have money coming in from the United States. So he's already eager to go.
Yeah. Well, during the trial, there was witness testimony from some of the migrants who survived those sweltering temperatures in the back of that tractor trailer. What is some of the testimony that stood out to you from just listening in on that?
So listening to the survivors' testimony about how they made their arrangements with the coyotes and how they handled things at the border and the various crossings that they made to actually get to Laredo, which is where they boarded the truck, was all interesting and important. But I think the most powerful testimony from both of them is that when they were on board the trailer and traveling between Laredo and San Antonio, when it started to get extremely hot, people started screaming and banging on the walls of the truck. And both of these witnesses said that they heard a voice from the outside of the truck in response to that banging and in response to those screams that said something to the effect of, We'll be there soon. Don't worry. In other words, there was communication between the people in the back of the truck and somebody outside the truck who those witnesses presume was the driver. And nevertheless, whoever that was outside the truck did not let them out. So that was a big question going into the trial. Was the driver aware that the people in the back were suffering the way that they were suffering or not? And it seems like now we have a more clear answer with regard to that question.
Yeah. And since those 53 migrants, Elliott, since they were found in a trailer in San Antonio, what have you learned about the rates of human smuggling?
Well, one of the most important things about this trial is that we're hearing from Homeland Security investigations personnel, we're hearing from Border Patrol agents, we're hearing from all kinds of people who worked on the government side, and also from co-defendants who have taken plea agreements. And it's quite clear that human smuggling on the southern border is a vast enterprise, and that this organization was one small part of that enterprise. But this organization alone conducted 17 tractor-trailer operations at least between late 2021 and June when this terrible tragedy occurred. So they were transporting hundreds and hundreds of people on tractor-trailers. And we've heard from a canine Border Patrol checkpoint agent, for example, who said that in his 5 years working one checkpoint north of Laredo, his dog had 600 different times when they found human beings concealed in the back of a vehicle or in a vehicle somewhere. So I think what we're seeing in the trial is that human smuggling on the border is something that's happening all day, every day. And it didn't start with this incident, and it will not end with this incident.
Yeah, certainly a heartbreaking incident, but one, Elliott, that really shines a light on just how dangerous these journeys are and really what people are willing to do to try and make it to the United States safely. Unfortunately, in their case, so many of them did not make it. Elliott Woods, thank you tonight for this discussion. We really appreciate your time. There are many other stories that Elliott shares in this article, and you can check it out right now. It's on TexasMonthly.com.